should allow us to see pretty much everything, I think. Okay, but looking from the side, what's going to be obvious is the oviduct. And yellow is going to be the ovary. And the red here would be the fimbriated end of the oviduct. Now what's confusing to me is it looks like you got two oviducts, right? Because you can see two tubes. Okay, if you come down here, the one on the outside is the oviduct too. Okay, all this is the oviduct. The red would be the fimbriated end of the oviduct. But all that's the oviduct. The other thing that looks like it's kind of a round thing, that's the ovarian ligament. That's going to attach the ovary to the side of the uterus. So there's only one oviduct, and the second tube-like structure is solid, and it's called the ovarian ligament, and it helps to attach the ovary to the side of the uterus, so it won't flop around as much. Okay, what I'm going to do next is pull this out, okay? So we can take a look at this cross-sectional view. And of course that's going to be the pubic symphysis. And right behind the pubic symphysis with the crinkled interior lining is going to be the urinary bladder. And the urinary bladder drains by way of the urethra. So this right here, you can see that little structure right there, that's the clitoris. We'll talk about that in class. And the clitoris is inside the vestibule. And the vestibule, in turn, is inside the labia minora. And that would be covered with a mucous membrane. And outside of it would be the labia majora that's covered with skin. And these are referred to as the labial lips. So inside the labial lips would be a region called the vestibule. And the vestibule at the top contains clitoris and two openings. So the first opening is the urethral orifice that a girl would pee out of. And the next opening is the vagina. So you go from the vaginal orifice to the vagina, up the vagina to the uterus. So this is the pubic symphysis. In both sexes, behind the pubic symphysis would be the urinary bladder. In females, behind the urinary bladder is the uterus that goes to the vagina. And the urethral orifice is the first opening, vaginal orifice would be the next opening, and then you're at the end of the vestibule, inside the labia minora and the labia majora, the labial lips. Okay, this would be the rectum to the anal canal to the anus. There's only one hole between a guy's legs. That's the anus. Because the other opening would be the urethral orifice at the end of the penis. But there are three openings between a girl's legs. The urethral orifice, the vaginal orifice, and the anus. Okay. The uterus. You should know that the upper third, probably the way I'd ask it, just to make sure it's really clear, the upper third is the fundus, the middle third is the body, and the somewhat constricted region down at the lower part of the uterus is the cervix. The vagina attaches to the cervix of the uterus. So if I went 1, 2, 3, 1 is the fundus, 2 is the body, and 3 is going to be the cervix of the uterus. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh, this mound of fat right here, this is fat tissue here. So this mound of fat right here would be the mons pubis. In fact, mons means little mountain above the pubic region. And it would be what's covered with hair in girls. Okay? So this would be a hair-colored region called the mons pubis. The mons pubis and the vestibule together make up the vulva. So you probably see vulva. All the external genitalia, external parts of a female, to include the mons pubis, make up an area called the vulva. Okay, what else can I think of? Let me get this other model, because I do want you to know both. So, let's see. Yeah. So this will be helpful too. So we see a couple things on this model. Yeah, this is pretty good. So what you got here would be the mons pubis. Okay, then what I'm touching right there would be the outer labial lips covered with skin. And that would be the labia majora. And then you can see the inner labial lips, which are mucous membrane covered. just inside, those would be the inner labial lips, or the labia minora. And from here, at the top, okay, down to there, this region, if we open it up and look inside and see the openings of the urethra and the clitoris, that's the vestibule inside the inner labial lips. Okay, so we can, let's see, take a couple looks stuff from right here too. Of course, that's going to be the rectum, right? That leads to the anal canal and finally the anus. And, okay, on this one, see, there's going to be a couple things that are a little confusing. That right there is the ureter. Okay? So the kidneys make urine, and urine goes by way of the ureters into the urinary bladder. And what's going to be confusing is you're going to see another thing right here on the inside. That's not the ureter, that's the round ligament. And the round ligament attaches the uterus to the body wall. And that helps to hold the reproductive organs, internal reproductive organs of females, kind of suspends them up into the abdominal cavity so they don't, all crumple down to the bottom. Okay, so that's the round ligament. All right. Here's the ovary again. Okay, the ovary's in yellow, and then the red would be the fimbriated end of the oviduct. And if you follow the fimbriated end, you can follow the oviduct all the way back to the uterus. And beneath the oviduct, see, it almost looks like there's two tubes there, but it's not two tubes. The round thing coming off the yellow-colored ovary is an ovarian ligament that attaches the ovary to the side of the uterus. Okay, there is a sheet of connective tissue that comes literally. See all this here? I mean, this and that and everything I'm touching here. I mean, this entire sheet of connective tissue is called the broad ligament. You can see it in the pictures. Let's try and get this back together. Okay, but this sheet, very broad, thin sheet of connective tissue that all this stuff is kind of embedded in, is called the broad ligament. And all of this would be the broad ligament, up and down. That's all the broad, three ligaments. The round ligament attaches the uterus to the body wall. The cord-like ovarian ligament attaches the ovary to the side of the uterus. And all of this sheet-like ligament is called the broad ligament. And everything is kind of embedded in it. Okay, so what else? You can kind of see everything, I think, that we've already talked about. But the fundus, body, cervix, the uterus, going down to the vagina, vaginal orifice, urethral orifice. This little structure right here is the clitoris, right next to the pubic symphysis, where the cochlear bones come together. Behind the pubic symphysis in both sexes, first thing you're going to come to is the urinary bladder. The next thing, only in girls, would be the uterus and the vagina, and finally the rectum. I think that's it. I think we just covered everything off the female line.